Well, hello. Whoop, 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 whoop. Screw me up here. Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the rib. And before we get to the news, let's remind everyone it is Memorial Day today. Uh, we will talk about it a little bit during the show. And this is not Cookout Day. It is not, Party Hardy Day. It is a solemn day of remembrance for those who gave their lives fighting for this nation. And we should all remember that fact. And, so with that, CJ, let's talk about the shooting and the stabbing, or the shooting and the cutting, or whatever they want to classify it as.
And you can't even go out for a halfway crappy taco. Yeah, so I guess yesterday at about 9:15 at Taco Bell on Mariano S. Bishop Boulevard, that's the one up in the south end, there was an altercation out in front of the restaurant with shots fired and potentially a stabbing. Uh, but we're safe. We don't have shots fired all over the city. You know that. I mean, how many times have we heard that? We don't have shots fired all over the city. Um, but you can't even go out for dinner now, even though it's a cheap dinner. You can't even go out for it. If they had said somebody had eaten at Taco Bell and they were gaseous, I would have said, well, that's kind of expected. It's not funny, but at this point, you have to laugh at it.
No, you're right, CJ, because you have to kind of laugh to stop from crying. But you know the the good news is in some places, not Fall River where they ignore this. It's like we just continue to have these incidents, which means that you better not argue with anybody in Fall River because they're all armed and dangerous, basically. So there was an altercation, and there's guns and cutting instruments out and everything else. So it's like, how do you reconcile that? Is that going to be in the brochure to get all the yuppies down from Boston to move in here? Come to Taco Bell, get shot or maybe stabbed or both. Who
I
knows?
prefer I prefer the old days of the Fall River Gilhoolies.
Yeah, yeah, fist fights. Yeah, that was the older. Yeah, and but it's turning around, CJ. I saw a report this morning about the West Coast, which Chicago. I saw a report on Chicago. The Memorial Day weekend's been horrific over there with shootings and murders, and as it always is in Chicago on weekends, but it's even worse on the holidays. Um, those people, they're infuriated, but there's finally a backlash. These woke DAs that are responsible for this, and these wokey mayors, like maybe our mayor, who pretend it doesn't happen and let all these things just exacerbate, they're getting voted out. They had an incumbent progressive DA get bounced after his first term by a former DA who's a conservative and is willing to prosecute crime in California. They had two of them bounced. There's a recall on another one in Oregon. People are beginning to get fed up because these people are easy on crime because it doesn't affect them. They live in these rich enclaves that are protected. And if crime is perpetrated on them, they will get the National Guard, the CIA, the FBI, the DOJ, and every other three-lettered organization in the world out there, and they'll throw those people in jail forever. But when it happens to the average citizen, it's like, hey, screw you. Tough luck. You don't like it, that's the way it is. But things are starting to change. People are fed up. That's why we're trying to get everybody out here, and we're preaching to the choir with our viewers, but you guys know, but these people, we got to throw these people out of office. You can't keep these corrupt, useless politicians in forever. You got to change them like diapers, because for the same reason, they're full of shit.
I hear you there. That's for sure. And we look at this and we see, as you were saying about the Wokey mayor and the Wokey district attorneys and whatnot. Always remember though, those Wokey people are the same people who have privilege put upon them. We spoke about it all last week. I spoke about it in the weekend flush. Okay? It's privilege. If you or I had done a hit and run, we would have been charged. There's no question about it. And as I put in the weekend flush, I was told to take out the alleged hit and run and just change it to accident. And I refused to change it to accident because, in my opinion, it was a hit and run. He didn't leave information. He didn't swap information initially without being told by the police department that it happened. If the police department had never called him, it never would have, and nobody's seen it, it would have never happened. It would have never happened. That's for sure.
No, you're right. I mean, look, you can say alleged hit and run. No, he did. He left the scene. He admitted it.
Right.
In his press conference, when he went on Channel 10, he admitted that he got a call, he went back and he went to Taunton. He didn't
Right.
exchange information at the scene. He didn't attempt to look for the driver at the scene. He left. And therein lies the contradiction. But, these people, that's the thing that infuriates me. Listen, if you want to be an a-hole, be an a-hole, but admit you're an a-hole. If you got privilege, admit it. But they turn everything around on everybody. You ever notice that they project what they do, which is use all these things as excuses. Those idiots on The View, which I never watched, but I saw the segment on it because somebody showed it. One of these rich bozos on The View that are always talking about this thing, they complain about everything because everything has to be about oppressed and oppressor, and everything's got to be about labels. And they were complaining about this new basketball player in the WNBA, the women's basketball, WBA, I don't know what the
WNBA.
WNBA. And it was horrifying because she's getting all kinds of press. And they were pissed off. This girl is bringing a whole bunch of new people to watch women's basketball. And they're upset. You know why? She's white. Not only is she white, this is what they said. She has white privilege, she has tall privilege, and she has pretty privilege. All those privileges she's got. Not the fact that she's, without a doubt, the greatest female basketball player in the history of collegiate basketball. That's got nothing to do with it. So let's not judge people by what they do, by the content of their character, by their merit, by their ability. They don't like her because she's white. And to their credit, I don't have much use for a few of these guys. They had a couple of pro basketball players that retired, and one of them is an activist, say to those idiots, shut up. This girl is bringing attention, fans, and money, and she can play. They're such whining wimps. They disgust me. privileged, tall privileged, pretty privileged. The hell with the fact that she's a great ball player. Let's ignore that. But at least basketball players can look at her and say, hey, shut up. I don't care what color she is. I want her on my team. These are the same people that are allowing minorities at UCLA Medical School to get out of medical school that can't read blood tests or identify arteries in the body. They're not qualified to be doctors, but they're getting out. There's a big controversy about that. They're destroying this country with this crap, and people are getting fed up to here with it. This is absolutely nuts. This is what we've been relegated to. All they do is complain. They never complain about themselves, though. They can have rich privilege. I can guarantee you none of those bozos on the View live in 3 decades. I can guarantee you they live in rich, affluent neighborhoods where there's no crime. But that doesn't matter. They can complain about everybody else. You guys just live in the crap holes that we create for you and shut your mouth. And that's the way it is. You know, it's nuts.
I gotta say, Linda's right here. You know, the irony, as she says, of the elites whining about oppression. Yeah, well, they've got nothing else to do except to impose their views, no pun intended, on the people. And you don't get a say in what's going on. And that's a problem. You do have a say. Your say is at the ballot box. And, we're dumbing down America because of this woke movement. When doctors are dropped from programs because they're white and in the top of their class because they graduate too many white doctors or they graduate too many Indian doctors, that's just wrong. They went to school to learn that, but they dropped them because of their race. Reverse discrimination, but nobody says anything about that.
No, you're
We
right.
don't see. We
As
don't
a
see the
matter of
fact that.
fact, as a matter of fact, they do just the opposite. They actually discriminate against them.
Yeah,
They discriminate because look at Harvard. They stopped letting Orientals in. They reduced the number of Oriental students in Harvard because they were academically too superior. So the irony is, they don't want superiority. They don't want good doctors because look, I've got doctors in my family. You know what they all say? My cousin was a doctor at Dana-Farber for 30-some years, and over 30 years, and she was a world-renowned cancer research specialist, oncologist. And you know what she told me? She said, everybody that graduates from medical school is a doctor. It don't matter. Color or anything else. You should want the best doctor in the world. When somebody's cutting you open, I don't care what color they are. Dr. Ben Carson's a cardiac surgeon, very noteworthy cardiac surgeon. He's black, but he's a hell of a surgeon. But this is what these people do. They want to bring everybody down, and what they're doing is lowering the standards for everybody. See, they're rich enough to go to the really great hospitals with the great doctors that won't hire these people. I mean, these people are graduating, can't identify an artery. They're not going to go to Mass General or Dana-Farber because those residents, and I don't know this, CJ, you're in a medical field, Those residency programs are the most difficult residency programs to get in the world.
They're competition based.
Yeah, they get maybe 5, 6 residents in the cardiac unit up there. It's the hardest cardiac residency program they get in. They get nothing but the best of the best.
That's
Those
right.
people are begging to get in there because it's the best in the world. But they want you to have some guy that can't identify an artery or read your blood test. Oh, let him go work in Fall River. We'll graduate them. They'll go work in East Podunk. We don't care where they go. And it's horrifying. I'm sorry, it's horrifying. Yeah, you're right, Linda. But people send us things all the time, and somebody just sent me this, and I gotta go. I gotta hit this one because we talked about the vote on Memorial Day about our reps voting against giving priority to homeless veterans, and we still never got a straight answer. He said he didn't vote for it, but this is somebody because we were talking about it, and people watch our show, so they sent me this little excerpt from an interview, and it said, this is a caption. It's got a picture of Alan Sylvia, and it says, "Why your state reps vote against your best interest? You must watch the interview with Alan Sylvia from last year. He explained that if you vote against the speaker, they remove you from committees. Alan lost 20,000 for voting against the bill the speaker wanted. Once you consider that, 3 Massachusetts speakers have gone to prison in the past 2 decades. You understand how deep corruption is allowed to happen in Massachusetts. This is it, people. They don't go up there to represent you. Imagine getting 20 grand for being on a committee. That's not even the chair. So when you see their salaries and they say, oh, they only make $60,000, horse manure. Factor in their travel money, their committee. That's it. They're up there to make money. He's going to do what the speaker tells him. He doesn't give a damn what's going to happen. And every one of those bums should be out every 2 terms. Gone. Max. 2 terms. See you later. Bye. In every office. And this is why. He actually said this in an interview. This is what you're up against. And then I had another picture of, well, Viva Fall River got a lot of money to run events for the city. Now got to transport people. I just saw a post today with the picture of the event to bird watching at the biosphere. You think we can fit one more person on a trolley? There were like 2 people on a trolley. These people are nuts. Okay, this is what they're spending your money on and paying these people's salaries to do. This trolley of nowhere. Like I said, you got to pay for the trolley. And then they showed the one about the graduation rates that they manipulate. But see, people do give us information all the time, and it's accurate information. You can go watch that interview with Alan Sylvia. You can pull it up. You can go find that picture of people. Or lack of people. But when you go to the La La Land at the council meeting, they're all talking about everything that's all these hypotheticals. Well, it's not hypothetical that there were shots fired and cuts and all kinds of things up there. So with that, CJ, like I said, back to you, because we got, it's just infuriating. You're muted.
I said you speak about the trolley, which I was going to bring up, and the interesting thing about it was there were only 2 people on that trolley, and when the mayor cut the ribbon, there was like 4 people there for the ribbon cutting. And as I said before on this show, and I said in the Weekend Flush, this city used to have 3 trolleys that needed some mechanical work and some refurbishment. 3. But instead, we sold them for chump change, and they're now in another community running and working wonderfully. Had we dumped the $77,000 into repairing the three we had, as opposed to buying a used one from another community, I think we would have been better off. Much better off. But that's only my opinion. And I'll tell you now, one of the things that really gets me going is the fact that whenever you speak out against these programs, whenever you speak out about them at all, you're classified as negative. Again, with the labels, you get the labels. But I'll tell you now, you're right, Linda. It's going to cost us more. Now, supposedly, the people paid fares over the weekend. Remember, I always follow the law. The city council hasn't even met on the fares yet for the trolley. The ordinance was just being sent to them now, which means it's going to go to the city council on Tuesday. From there, it's going to go to the committee on ordinance, then back to the city council. So technically, the trolley can't collect the dime because we don't have it in ordinance yet. But remember, I always follow the law. The other interesting thing that we have to look at is the water taxi kicked off this weekend. And again, here's where we get into the multiple stories. We were told that the water taxi was going to take people from the city pier to the Board and Light Marina. And I think there was 2 stops in between at the cost of $3. So what happened was this weekend, I got this directly from a person who was very clear on what happened. She paid $3 for her and $3 a piece, I guess, for her grandchildren. And not only did they go from the city pier to the marina, they got a tour of the Taunton River. Do they have a license to do that? Are they licensed by the Coast Guard to do that? Do they have a license for tours? Do they have the insurance for the tours? I've been asking, do they have vests, life vests, for all the passengers? Because nobody ever wears one. And I asked this person, did you wear a life vest? She said, I didn't even see them. Now, I know Chip has done water rescues numerous times, and he's had to dive to recover the bodies. Is that what it's going to take in Fall River? For us to have a child fall overboard and that they can't find, and then the fire department's going to have to be called out to go search for the child's body? This is something that could happen. I'm not saying it's going to, but this is something that could happen. Things sound wonderful until you start looking at all the potential problems. And just because you're looking at a potential problem doesn't mean you're being negative. It means you're trying to look out for you, the business, the community, the passengers, participants. You're looking to be sure that you can do it right. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, can you spell liability? You're right, Linda.
Yeah, she's right. But look, let me tell you something, CJ. Look, like I said, I don't even. That's why I don't pay attention to these people. They can say negative, negative, negative all you want. Everything we say, we can show proof of, laws, articles, pictures, and if it's our opinion, it's our opinion. But like these people just twist everything for their own narrative. They also they also manipulate fact for their own benefit. And they can't do any critical thinking. They're incapable of thinking. You know, you and I have been around. I mean, you lived up in Minnesota for a while, and you've seen other parts of the country. I've seen a lot of this country and most of the world, actually. And I'm going to tell you something. I've seen cities that have come back. Portland, Maine is one, and then obviously I go to Maine a lot. My father was born there, and I always vacation in Maine at least once a year now. Normally in the summer, but now I go in the fall, so I can walk the dog on the beach all day, because you can't bring the dogs on the beach at Old Orchard during the regular season between 9 in the morning and 5 at night. So the dog's going to be stuck, wandering around with you in the city. But we see these places, and what do? We keep hearing this from these counselors talking about how we're going to get, tourism. Number one, it'll never be a major piece of our economic picture.
Will never be Newport or Cape Cod.
Just give people jobs. Because you look at a lot of these places, what have they done when they actually do have tourists that show up? And to encourage them, they don't put in parking kiosks so you got to pay. They make free parking zones. They give free trolleys, like in Newport. They give freebies to encourage people to come. They give them plenty of parking, free trolleys. Why can they do that? Because any mayor with a functioning brain knows that if he actually has a lot of businesses in the city, all he has to do is say, listen guys, we're going to help you and your business by providing transportation and parking areas, but the city, obviously, we want you to fund this, or at least partially fund it. If we're not going to charge the people, and we're going to take up space that we could be getting parking fees from, and they do it in these communities. Newport's got the free trolley. And then feel like naysayers all the time, oh, Fall River's got, they name like 4 things, and who cares? Like I said, if you listen to the mayor of Newport list off just part of this stuff, Cliff Walk, the Tennis Hall of Fame, Thames Street, Brick Alley, you name it, the mansions, the 12-mile drive. Oh, wow. No, I'm going to go to Fall River. To see what? The tour of the Taunton River. What do you see on the opposite side of the Taunton River? Somerset. Yeah. You know that vast wasteland that Joe Biden was standing in when he gave his speech? It looked like Hiroshima after the bomb. He's standing in the middle of this place that's totally desolate, rubble all over the place, giving a speech in Somerset. And like you said, do they have anything about a tourist? Look, this is another, like we got back to the state reps, 20 grand. I guess he was saying that so we could pat him on the back. Well, have some, you're not up there. You're up there to represent us. Oh, I lost 20 grand, but see, that shows the depth of the corruption. How much are they really making? $200,000, $150,000, $250,000, $300,000. I mean, that's for being on a committee. What's the chair of the committee get? What's the vice chair of the committee get? And as they so aptly said, we've had 3 speakers of the House go to jail in the past 2 decades. We had a couple more that should have went to jail, and you and I both know those names, CJ.
Yes, we do.
Virtually every speaker in the House should have went to the slammer. Because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is the problem. This is the problem. These people are not in it for us. So it's up to us to vote these people in only if they work for us. And when they stop working, put them on the MBTA and send them to Boston and let them live in a homeless encampment, because they're not in it for us. They're in it for the money. Back to you.
Yep. We had an interesting question from Scott, and he says, "Where do you find free parking in Newport?" I'm curious. Well, on special events, as I posted, they sometimes offer free parking so that they can relieve the congestion in the city. And a lot of times, businesses that you support in Newport will offer to pay for your parking, or they stamp your ticket, your parking ticket or something, and they let you uh, park there for free. And that happens in a lot of places. One of the things about Newport is the city doesn't lose any money. You see, the businesses pay for and support the trolleys. The businesses pay for and support the free parking. It's not just the city. And that's what happens in a private public partnership. But Newport can do that because Newport has something to offer all the time. All the time. I remember, I mean, Chip, you'll remember it. Remember when we used to have the tall ships come into Newport? We used to have the tall ships come into Newport. You used to have to park in Middletown because you couldn't get there. And they offered buses coming from there to here. So
Yeah,
I
there's
wonder.
another question, but before you get there, let me tell Scott. I was talking about the free trolley, and as CJ said, a lot of these communities, and I can name a whole bunch of them off the top of my head. Some of them have free parking areas all the time near certain retail areas in some communities. Other ones do it on the basis of something very, very large. As you said, when they had tall ships and we had things like that, they actually changed like the areas at the polo field in Middletown, and they'd shuttle you in for free.
Glen Farms.
That happened. That happened in that I a lot of retail stores in a lot of cities like Miami. They've got parking garages and stuff, but if you go in there and you shop, you validate your parking ticket and they pay.
That's right.
These are all things that actual cities who really, really want to develop tourism and have a very vibrant tourism thing. Look, I'm going to be perfectly frank. Fall River can't do this because we can't draw flies here. First, you got to figure out how to draw people. When you have the tall ships, or before the yacht races, the America's Cup in Newport, you had literally hundreds of thousands of people flocking to the Newport area. You have to have some kind of, you couldn't find a pot, and this is what they do. And, other areas, and, Miami, I've gone to Miami numerous times, and, they always make provisions for certain things. And, well, CJ, you've been on Collins Avenue, the Fontainebleau.
Yeah, the Fontainebleau.
There's no parking on Collins Avenue near all
No,
those
there
major
isn't.
hotels. You cannot park your car on a street. You can't park your car on a street on that whole stretch of all the big high-end hotels in Miami. So if you have a car, you have to park it in the hotel. You can't park it on the street. So, and then when you go somewhere, they have to make provisions for that stuff. So the hotel gives you if you're a guest there, you get like a discount rate, a couple of dollars a day to park your car or something like that. And, all these things, but obviously it's apples and oranges. When when you're comparing Miami, in Fall River, or Newport in Fall River, or even Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine's done an absolutely incredible job of rehabilitating that medium-sized city. It's one of the nicest in the United States, but it took them a very, very long time and a commitment by their leadership, by their politicians to do it for the city, for the businesses, and for the people. The only commitment we have in Fall River is create more jobs and tax the people to death. That's their commitment. And Alan Sylvia said it best. Hey, I lost 20 grand for voting against the speaker. I don't give a damn what the vote is. I'm doing whatever the speaker tells me.
Yeah. But he doesn't represent the speaker. He represents the people. And that's the problem. Back to Scott's question about Ken Fiola and the state pier. He's still in charge of the state pier. God forbid the mayor put somebody else in that job. God forbid the mayor take that job away from, Ken Fiola. He may lose $20,000 or more. Who knows? Who knows how much he's getting paid? It's another one of those big secrets. But he's still in charge of the state pier. And again, we see how it's failing. No money's been dumped into it. They have money that they're supposed to be putting back into the state pier. And the board, which governs the state pier, and Ken Fiola have not spent a dime of that money on upgrades and maintenance to the city pier. Okay, state pier. They haven't done it. Okay, they haven't done it. And we're never going to see that with Ken Fiola in charge. We're just not. Because Ken Fiola represents Ken Fiola. And only Ken Fiola. It is what it is. So.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Scott's right. They are salivating. Anytime they can make money. See, they're not interested in promoting the city, helping businesses and helping the taxpayer by elevating everybody. By bringing actually people in here to help us pay by bringing them in to spend some money, out of town money, in the city. Everything they've ever done has failed in the long run. You had Fall River Celebrates America. That turned into an absolute cluster. Because why? Politics. It was bringing in some people, but they were isolating it right to that one area, so we never really made that much money off it anyway. The same thing with the Great Feast. I mean, it's encapsulated. See, these boneheads don't understand when you bring that many people in. Find a way to engage the rest of the businesses in the community so they can get something. Allow them to do something. Market the rest of the city when you got them in here. But no. Look, it's not rocket science. They have done this all over this country, all over the world. But it's not that we don't know how to do it. It's we don't want to do it. They just want to just line their pockets and pretend that everything is rosy. And that's the sad part about it. The sad part about it is, look, we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is not difficult. We brought in thousands of people. We brought in thousands of people at Fall River Celebrates America. I worked at the first one with Stewie Kuznets and all the people down there. And we brought in a lot of people, but then it was all about that one little area. They didn't market the rest of the community. They had the vendors down there. Then it got political on what vendors got who. And that's the reality of the stuff. Nobody wants to hear it, but politics destroys everything in this city. Politics is just what it is. That's another euphemism for being crooked. We should not have politicians in this country. On this Memorial Day, that we honor all those who died to make this a great nation. I will remind the politicians of what John Kennedy said. History will judge you, whether you were a statesman or a politician. And unfortunately, once they made staying in Boston for their whole lives or staying in Washington for their whole lives, they are no longer representatives of the people. They are no longer statesmen. They are no longer representatives of the people. They are greedy self-interest groups looking to line their own pockets at your expense.
I can't agree with you more. I honestly can't agree with you more. It just makes for a situation where people get very frustrated with their government and with representation. And that's what happens. And people keep saying, "Bring back Fall River Celebrates America." Okay, it'd be wonderful if we had Fall River Celebrates America back. The problem is, who's going to pay for it? Fall River Celebrates America started going very downhill very fast after the Chamber of Commerce took it over at the request of Eddie Lambert, because Eddie Lambert only wanted to do it once. At the request of Eddie Lambert, because he saw it was successful. And then the chamber started charging an admission fee. People kept telling them they want more and more. They wanted the big name acts. They wanted the big name concerts, but they didn't want to pay for it. But that's what you have in a community like Fall River. People who have to hold on to every penny. It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it easy to offer something for
No,
people.
you're right. And look, they have no vision. They have nothing. They just want to repeat, and it gets into political. Why doesn't Fall River have a Fall River celebrates its ethnic diversity and have a big thing down there and not have these trucks? We have a very diverse community. You and I grew up in a Fall River that wasn't that diverse. You know that, CJ.
Yep.
I mean, when I grew up, there was exactly one black student at Durfee High School. One. And I think maybe one Hispanic. As a matter of fact, and I'm not making this up, because Fall River at one time didn't even qualify to hire minorities for police and fire, because our minority population was so small. That was a long time ago. But Fall River was really not very diverse. But it is now. It is now, and we know it. As a matter of fact, the mayor was complaining about the diversity. Oh, the reason is that, all these people that are not basically white. Well, we've got a lot of communities. We have the Cambodian community, got the Vietnamese community, we've got Dominican Republic, we've got Puerto Ricans, we've got every kind of Hispanic group, fundamentally. We've got a whole bunch of people like that in this city. But our man's too busy playing with his rich friends, and he doesn't care about these people. Why doesn't somebody organize these people? I shouldn't be giving them ideas, but why doesn't somebody organize these people and have each one of these ethnic groups at a festival showcase their culture, showcase their food, showcase their nation, their former nation? I mean,
it's funny you bring that up. It's funny you bring that up, because guess what? Providence and Boston do that.
Yeah. Well, look, they've been doing that for years in Hawaii.
That's right.
If you go to Hawaii, and I've been to Hawaii, I went to a convention there. There is the Hawaiian Cultural Center, and they have an amazing, absolutely amazing area down there that tourists visit all the time. Every single Pacific island is represented there. Fiji, Samoa, all kinds of people like that. And each one of those areas has their own area. It's like Epcot down in Florida. And you go there and you get to see their culture. They talk about their history. They talk about their, you know, everything. And I remember I went down there. It was and you can pay extra at the end of the day and have a luau and everything else. But you see all these different cultures from the South Pacific. It was really, really amazing. It was a wonderful, one of the best days I ever spent down there. It was great. And I remember going to the where they had the Morai pirates, and the Morai pirates were famous for their fierceness as warriors. And I went to see the Morais, that part of the culture, and they had the people dressed up like Morai warriors, and they used to bind themselves at the various around their elbows, and so if they got shot, you had to actually shoot them in a vital area because they would just be able to keep coming at you. And when it got done, I actually walked over to the curator at the museum and I said, that was an amazing thing. And he said, thank you. I said, you guys were great warriors. He said, yeah. And I said, do you realize that it was because of you and your warriors that the Colt 45 was developed by the United States Army? And he went, really? I said, yeah. I said, you were down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, going to the Special Forces Museum, and there's a picture of an Army officer standing there with his troops repelling a Morai attack holding a 45. The 45 was developed because the 38 couldn't stop you. And they actually went down there and got it. Got that picture, and it might be there now. This is the kind of thing that draws people. Amazing stuff like this. And they have no idea. But they've been doing that in places, like you said. Now they do it in other places in the United States. They do it in Providence. Yeah, they have these massive ethnic things. But you see, you actually got to care about those people. You got to care about the makeup of your community. When you don't give a shit about anybody but the rich people, you're not going to do things like this. And that's the bottom line, CJ. Back to you.
Yeah, I want to bring to your attention Leonard's Bakery in Hawaii, the pivotal place for malasadas. And the thing about the malasadas in Hawaii, as opposed to the malasadas in Fall River, is that the malasadas in Hawaii are like donuts. And they even stuff them with jelly and like macadamia nuts and all kinds of great things. Leonard's their malasadas come in a pink box, and they're the top of the line. They're the best you can get. Chip, I want to give you the close for Memorial Day, so take it away.
No, you're right, CJ. A lot of people don't realize there's a extremely large Portuguese community in Hawaii.
Yes.
They went there to pick sugar cane, to work in the sugar cane fields. And on a big island of Hawaii, they have, you see that thing advertised on TV, Hawaiian bread. You know what that is? It's sweet bread.
That's sweet bread.
Their version is sweet bread.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. I went to that bakery because I took a tour of the island, at the big island. Went to the black sand and the lava fields and the lava tubes and the active volcano. But they stopped at the bakery, and the guy that's running the tour said, "Oh, you're going to get a big treat. You're going to have malasadas and stuff like that." So I walked in, and the girl goes, "Oh, you want to try malasadas?" I looked at her and went, "Those aren't malasadas." And she looked at me and said, "What?" And I said, "Those aren't really malasadas, She goes, "Yes, they are." And I said, "No, they're not." I said, "You realize I come from a city that's 65% Portuguese." I said, "Malasadas are made by hand, and none of them look the same. All of yours are made with a cookie cutter. These are donuts. They're sugar donuts. They're not malasadas. And they're good, don't get me wrong. But if somebody from Fall River went there expecting malasadas, they're not getting malasadas, like we know. They are not authentic. They have evolved through the years in Hawaii with their Portuguese community. It's been there for hundreds of years. But they do have a very, very large Portuguese community. And like you said, who the hell ever saw a malasadas with nuts in it and jelly and stuff like that? And I told her that, and the girl went, "Really?" She said, "Oh, that's very interesting." I said, "Yeah, but they make a boatload of money, that place.
Yes, they do.
They make a boatload of money, and they're good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it, but it's not what we, it's not what we would consider malasadas, because it's a Hawaiian version, just like their bread.
Well, what I was told is what we get is fried dough. What they make is molasadi.
Yeah, and as you said, I'm going to wrap us up by again bringing us back to where we started. It is Memorial Day. Um, Take a moment to reflect on the sacrifice made by all those, because today is about the people who died, who were killed in action, fighting for our country. But we remember all veterans. I will go by the cemetery today and clean my father's World War II plaque to make sure it's bright and shiny and there's a flag on it. So, everybody, enjoy the rest of the day and remember what it is. It's about the people who made this country.
Stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Please remember today and the people who've paid with their lives to defend your freedoms. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Wednesday.